Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Applied Neolife. I sometimes call it Team Training Tuesday. And this month of November, we've been talking about men's health. And today I want us to summarize it before next week. I know the month hasn't quite ended, but I just want to look at the whole topic of changing the face of men's health. And for some particular reason, this year, the focus has been mainly on mental and psychological health. My name is Dr. Esa Zanambasi. I'm very, very passionate about the health of families, particularly the health of men, and if we can put it together, heads of households. Those are the ones that I personally would like to influence so that they lead their families to better health. So there you are, Movember. We've discussed it, Men's Health Awareness Month. And the question is about how boys grow into men and the importance of health and wealth through all stages of growth and maturity. Now, just a sneak preview. Next week, if you can all log in, it will be lovely because I have a panel of highly enthusiastic and very knowledgeable gentlemen. We shall have a panel discussion about health and wealth. So I just thought I would put this in so that we start preparing ourselves to discuss the importance. So next week, you're welcome to ask questions. It will be in the form of a Q&A. So about men, you know, men are very important to society, and they should ideally be the leaders of society. That's a very, that's the order of life. And I believe that we can get a good balance in our spiritual, mental, career, personal, financial, physical, family, and social lives if and only when men are healthy enough to lead us into that. And why this is important and achievable is that if we can work together as a community to ensure that through good health, men have consistent high levels of natural energy, emotional balance, mental fitness, and they learn to desire to maintain their physical health and create awareness of what enhances health, what suits the body, and what is needed. I think that is what is the fundamental, those are the fundamental tenets of making the world healthier and happier. We've often said that is our mission, to make the world healthier and happier, but what are the nuts and bolts? What needs to be done? So in this one, as I round up the month of November, we're going to touch on quite a few things. But first and foremost, we use our brains to think. So brain health is crucially important. The brain is an important organ, and mental health can be greatly enhanced by caring about lifestyle factors and factors that affect the brain as well. So my passion is to connect dots. So come along with me to connect them. And I'll start from the beginning and say, yes, fertility is important for all people, both men and women. And we can have causes of low fertility. And if you think about it, that is where we should be starting when we are considering the health of any individual, such as how much exposure in the environment is there to harmful substances like heavy metals. How much of the diet is leading to accumulation of homocysteine, something that we discussed last week when we looked at kidney diseases. What is the level of nutrition? Is it optimal or is it suboptimal? Okay, so there are a few questions that you can ask yourselves further, and there are more coming. But this is the one that got me really thinking. Cellular nutrition. How often do we think about the future of our men by considering the health of cells? I think that's where we should all be thinking. And to the guests, let me welcome you now. This is a new way of looking at health. If you haven't been exposed to it yet, this is the way we should all be looking at health at a cellular level. So there's plenty to think about. The cell looks something like that. We are made out of over 70 trillion cells that make up the human body. And by the way, I'll show you another slide later on, but yeah, the cells have to be looked after to ensure that they feed, they work, they reproduce, they excrete, and then they die decently. By that I mean they do not continue living in an uncontrolled fashion, because then that is the definition of a malignancy or a tumor. And then inside the cell, just so that we put it out there up front, are these little organelles called mitochondria. Very, very important. And we are recognizing more and more that it is failure of mitochondria that leads to disease and ultimately to failure of the human body. So mitochondria, there are thousands and thousands inside a cell, and they are the ones that do the work of that particular cell. They create the energy. Okay, so that is the fundamental information that you need to know. But as you've heard now, here are some questions that you should be asking yourselves, especially our men folk, as we are rounding off the Health Awareness Month of November. Do you take care to ensure that most of the food you eat is grown in optimal conditions? That's a tough question, especially for those of us who live in cities. However, there has been a tendency for us to go for the fast, convenient, and packaged foods. So, gentlemen, it might be a time to start thinking of going back to the kinds of foods that you can recognize as having been grown, so that you eat good quality plant-based, or if you're eating meat, you at least know where it's coming from, okay? And then, do you eat a lot of fried foods? Do you live in a city? This is another question. And do you drink unfiltered tap water? Do you smoke or live and work with smokers? Here's another question. Is most of the food you eat or drink in contact with soft plastic wrapping? Do you have alcoholic drinks on most days? Perhaps as a source of stress relief? And then, do you, on average, take one course of antibiotics per year? Many people I know do many more than just one in a year. So those are important questions. Ladies, I hope you're also listening, because it applies to both of us. But all this ties together, and if you are connecting dots, you'll know that all these questions are very important and quite pertinent. Right, then another thing that I'm throwing in here, remember I said I'm going to bring in a lot of concepts and then we'll tie it together. We have an organ called the liver. It is a very important detox organ. Last week, I talked about the kidneys. The liver and the kidneys are very important. Why? Because they metabolize hormones and they cause elimination of things that need to be eliminated from the body. Elimination is very important to ensure that hormones do not recycle. We are seeing a lot of people recycling hormones because the liver is battling under a lot of situations such as excess fat in the liver. And then the role of xenoestrogens. Those are estrogen-like chemicals in our environment that are all over the place. We'll discuss it at some point, but if you've been following these applied Neolife, you would have heard of xenoestrogens. And for the guests on the call, if you haven't heard about them, they are, for example, in a lot of the day-to-day products that we use, but you will get to know about them. So the role of xenoestrogens must always be on your list of reasons for hormonal imbalance. Now, why in the world am I talking about hormonal imbalance? And here is the reason. Hormonal imbalance is a root cause of many disease symptoms and signs. And here are some examples of hormones, but let's think of cortisol and adrenaline, for example, that rise quite tremendously due to stress and therefore can affect other body systems such as the cardiovascular system, resulting in blood pressure and other diseases, such as gaining weight, okay? And then insulin is an important hormone. It rises in response to all food, but it spikes very high in response to foods that are rich in sugar or that are broken down into simpler sugars. So that is significant because now we are, with that kind of information, empowered to choose the kinds of foods we eat so that we can be healthy. And this is a call to action for us to be mindful of what we are choosing to eat. Then another concept, the effect of sleep deprivation, the multiple effects. It can lead to a rise in stress hormones. I've already called out cortisol and adrenaline. It causes a marked reduction in T cell function, which means the immune system becomes affected. It causes a marked rise in bad inflammation, the kind that stays, becomes chronic. And that is a hallmark of many diseases when there is a lot of chronic inflammation. And stress is also, sleep deprivation is also connected to other conditions such as anxiety, depression, stress, aging, and we need to be so aware of that and decide that now we are going to develop good sleeping habits. More on sleep and the immune system. Studies show that less than 6 hours lead to an altered immune system. So if one is sleeping for less than 6 hours, this can lead to immune system challenges. Also, it impacts the body's white blood cells. Those are the line of cells that are involved in the immune system that we are born with, called the innate immune system. And sleep deprivation causes rise in inflammatory markers and overactivates the immune system, and overactivated immune cells can ultimately develop into various conditions such as autoimmune diseases. And then sleep-deprived people do not develop a strong antibody response. So lots of concepts, lots of things to think about. And I bring all this out just to show you that as human beings, we are actually quite complex. And we can't just go for that magic bullet that is going to take care of everything. We need to be very intentional about our health. And this, I'm speaking in this month of Men's Health Month, I'm speaking specifically to the men. Now, the importance of sleep, furthermore, T cells fight pathogens that invade cells, such as viruses and cancer cells. So if they are being deprived of their ability to function because of inadequate sleep, perhaps it's important to factor sleep in. And then T cells also recognize pathogens, and they activate proteins that attach to an invaded cell. If a cell has been invaded, for example, by a virus, the T cells will recognize that there's that virus invading the cell, and they'll get close, they'll get on it and kill that particular situation. Then T cells in well-rested people show higher activation than T cells of those who don't sleep well. So if I have motivated you to consider sleep, that's a good thing. Then another factor in this month of Men's Health Awareness Month, we need to always take care of the environment at a cellular level. And we thank this company that we belong to, called Neolife, for really emphasizing and changing our mindset on health by teaching us to think at a cellular level. So here goes. The environment, our genes, that is the cellular material, the genetic material that passes on from one cell to another. The environment of our genes are, the genes are in, right? The environment our genes are in is in every single cell in our body that have DNA. So cells communicate and have a way of picking up and responding to chemical, electrical, and vibrational signals. And these signals originate from the environment, both within the body and outside the body. Things like the air we breathe, the food we eat. That's why it's so important to be intentional. The water we drink. Our skins are very absorbing, and so whatever touches the skin. Very importantly, our thoughts, our feelings about ourselves and other people, and about life in general. So ask yourselves, what do you think about? Do you think about what you think about? Okay, that's a good question. And then obviously we are all surrounded by electromagnetic fields around us. We need to be mindful about those as well, and perhaps learn ways of enhancing our body's ability to withstand them. Right, so with all that as the background, ladies and gentlemen, I thought we would start by considering nutrition from before the man actually comes to be. I've already talked about conception and talked about the way we need to think at that level of the sperm and the ovum. Now, after the baby is formed and born, breastfeeding is always the best. Unfortunately, I say that because mothers have to be well nourished in order to feed both themselves and the baby that they're taking care of. And if it's a male baby, as you can see in this picture, it is doubly important in this month that we're considering men's health. So why is it crucial to establish good habits early, because we want to avoid malnutrition in childhood, especially in infancy. That leads to permanent effects that negatively interfere with normal growth and development. And also we know that children have lower nutritional reserves when they're children. So if there's anything that will disturb their health, they take a bigger knock. And then childhood events that can occur, such as burns, trauma, infections, infestations, are all quite severely aggravated by malnutrition. Now you might wonder, I'm supposed to be talking about men, but yes, men grow up from boys and children. And that's why I've called this particular one From Boys to Men. We need to remember that. And then when the men are grown and have children of their own, hopefully they will have created the good habits early to pass them on to the next generation. That's what we are about. So, signs and symptoms that we need to look out for if you're looking at children, all those ones, I'll just go very quickly to the last one. Mood changes, such as anxiety and irritability, could well be as a result of that organ called the brain that is under some sort of inflammatory process. And we are seeing more and more of that these days. It could also be because of inadequate nutrients. And that is what I mean here, a commonly overlooked cause of ill health, even in children, in today's world of abundant, convenient, and highly processed foods, is malnutrition. And it has such far-reaching effects that we are going to discuss how we can close the gap. This picture I've put here so that we never forget that the gut is crucial for our health, all of us, men and women alike. A healthy gut can become very permeable, hyperpermeable, called a leaky gut, if we are not mindful of what goes into that gut. Because I want us to be so aware that there is only one layer of cells that separates the outside world from inside us into the bloodstream. Now, a lot of people suffer from all sorts of symptoms and signs, and they become totally medicated with antibiotics, or the diet might have a lot of preservatives and chemicals, or at the first sign of any pain, they're already taking non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, we call them NSAIDs, such as aspirin, for example. They might be totally stressed, or they might be exposed to toxins, such that the gut becomes very unhealthy. And to correct that is not a simple matter. It takes a long time. And that's why there was that question, have you or do you take an average of a course of antibiotics per year? Some people take a course of antibiotics almost every month. So that perpetuates ill health. Okay, so let's just move on and talk about some points that we need to remember about nutrition. Nutrition deficiencies are a big driver of diseases. Vitamin B complex, for example, vitamin C, minerals such as magnesium, selenium, zinc, all those, once they're deficient, can be a big driver for diseases. Then very important amino acids such as methionine and cysteine can be deficient if the diet doesn't supply them. And now, last week I said something interesting, which was that methionine, if there's inadequate amounts of vitamin B complex, does not get metabolized properly, and then homocysteine builds up. And we've already seen that that is one of the markers of ill health and a lot of diseases. But be that as it may, we need it, but we need to have other things. So let's continue the quest to connect dots and see why we do things the way we do them. When that happens, there might be manifestations such as those. Those are relatively common symptoms and signs. The answer is not always to run to stop those symptoms and signs. It's the body talking and saying there's something that needs to be corrected. If they become unbearable, yes, I'm not saying that I'm totally against medication, but what I am saying is that perhaps we should approach health more from a prevention and preventative maintenance point of view. So here are some things that we can think about. Most drugs that are used, for example, to control asthma, might also cause mood swings, jitteriness, and inability to sleep. Then we need to be always aware of food additives and preservatives. So men and women alike should be very intentional about reading labels, or better still, stick to natural food that do not need a label because you can recognize it the first time. Now, I just want to say this is something that we need to be so aware of, because as I'm at pains to point out, children grow into adults. Malnutrition can manifest as childhood obesity. It is becoming increasingly more common due to a lot of things, not limited to this list, but foods that are highly processed, inadequate physical activity. There is a link with underactivity of the thyroid gland. Thyroid function underactivity can be something that we need to be aware of. Now, how does that happen? You know, I've been thinking about it, and the thyroid needs certain minerals and obviously amino acids, nutrients. But in our environment, we have a lot of chemicals that can potentially block a key mineral called iodine, chemicals such as chlorine, such as bromide or bromine or fluoride as well, okay? They're in the same class. For those of you who might know anything about chemistry, they're called the halogens. They're in the same class on the periodic table. We've got a lot of those in our environment, and they can block iodine and therefore cause the thyroid not to work very well. I hope that isn't too complicated, but that's why I said there is therefore a strong link to exposure to toxic products. And later on, I might just touch briefly on my story of why I went on a search for cleaning products that did not have those chemicals introduced into my home. I wanted to get rid of them from my home. Right, so we start early teaching children. As we grow into adults, we always need to remember that physical and mental fitness is so crucial, because life will only change when you become more committed to your dreams than you are to your comfort zone. And we have to always remember that thoughts have energy. So what we think about, I've already asked that question. Do you think about what you think about? Okay. Make sure your thoughts are positive and powerful. Right, so I'm just switching tack here, and I'm going to ease us into the products that we have as solutions in this family that we call Neolife. But remember that inflammation, anything that comes along and irritates us at a cellular level and causes oxidative damage, that is rusting at a cellular level, will result in disease, and particularly if it remains chronically. So we ask ourselves questions such as this: is your deodorant full of toxic things, such as aluminium? Let me go through some of the solutions we have. And I start on purpose because this is where I started my Neolife journey. I was looking for products that would not poison my children. And I've stuck to that story for as long as I've been in this business. And so we have concentrated, highly effective products that you take home and dilute. And then, for example, this 1 liter will make a total of about 11 liters of usable products. And you're not dumping more and more plastic into the environment because you recycle the mixing bottles. So my advice is, let's be healthy and save money. As men, heads of households, we can raise our families in a home free of harmful toxins so that the children learn to develop focus, resilience, and resistance against harmful pathogens. That is so crucial for the health of the family and for the brain health, and ultimately for mental health as well. Furthermore, we can save the environment and save money so that we remain healthy. Our products are 100% biodegradable, highly economical, and very, very effective. Now, having a long-range vision means you take decisions to make the necessary changes to protect both adults and the little men before the little men grow up. And we have a laundry compound that I'm so glad I discovered. That's all I will tell you. For the guests, please turn to the person who has invited you here. You'll get all the details. But I'm passionate about this because this is my story. That's where I began. And then we have non-toxic, very, very friendly to the skin products, including a range that is 100% organic for the skin for both men and women. So gentlemen, I advise that you use it. That could save your kidneys in the future, could save your liver as well. And this is why I'm passionate about it, for the sake of our children and the youth, because we are seeing a lot of changes and we are asking ourselves, what is going on? On another occasion, we'll tackle this in more detail, but I've brought it out as we discuss men's health. We need to make sure that we are protecting the children and the adults, because the xenoestrogens that I have mentioned, estrogens generally cause tissues to grow. So we all need to work together on this one and say, let us put an end to chronic diseases such as prostate problems. Now, eliminating fear, and that's why I do these sessions, so that we bring them out in the open, take away the challenges of not knowing, in other words, demystifying diagnosis. Eliminating fear will free us up to take a few more steps towards our goal. And that is said by Jerry Brasfield, the founder of this amazing family and opportunity that we belong to called Neolife. We invite all people to come and experience what we have in the family. And let me now focus on nutrition in the remaining few minutes. Core nutrition, that is a concept that you will hear a lot of. Basically, core nutrition gives us all the amino acids that make up protein and a pack called ProVitality. You can assemble your own ProVitality. It has threonine, omega-3, carotenoid complex, and a multivitamin called Multi, which has vitamins and minerals. I want to focus briefly on omega-3. It is a huge deficiency, but ours is unique in that it is the only one on the market, I believe, maybe there are others, that will supply all 8 molecules that make up a good omega-3, and ours is tested for over 200 toxins, and it is shown to be pure and therefore very potent and effective. Now, with that combination, why are we concerned about maintaining good health? Men and women, but today we're talking about men, need to maintain their muscles for as long as possible. And that's why nutrition is important, but so is exercise. Very, very important. Then vitamins are required for optimal cellular nutrition. These two are water soluble, vitamin B and vitamin C. It is important actually to supplement them because you won't get enough in the ordinary diet. So this is a good example of why supplementing is important to bridge those gaps in the diet. And then minerals are also very important. I've pointed out these two. I'll point out another one. But zinc, crucial for the health of the prostate gland in men. It is also very important for all enzymes in our bodies. Then magnesium, very important for the control of blood pressure. Now, magnesium is one of those minerals that is highly deficient in the diet. So it needs to be supplemented. And you can get it as a standalone, or you can get it in combination with calcium and vitamin D in this product. A stunning product, one of the ones that I really, really appreciate. Then quickly, adaptogens or herbal alternatives for men, masculine herbal in the markets that have it, and mind enhancement. Stunning products. All those have been presented to us by the Scientific Advisory Board. It's a board of scientists that was founded by Dr. Arthur First, who was a top toxicologist and cancer researcher. He came to Neolife in the 70s, and for the guests, Neolife had been going since 1958. But now we have scientists whose ethic is everything is based in nature and backed by science. And we are very, very proud of that. So I would like to invite you to hear more. I've already said next week should be very exciting. You will have the opportunity as the last Tuesday of the month to ask questions and have them answered by some notable members on the panel. And just as a reminder, we are on a mission to make the world healthier, happier, and free of stress. Thank you very much.